All I can say is that you should never do stuff like that. It's wrong, and I apologize to everyone who feels like I misled them in some way. Everything has been updated.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, it's apparently drama season around here right now, which of course makes it difficult for me to produce good content without all of the amateur dramatics that are around right now slowly seeping into it. In general, YouTube drama has this particular nature. One side says something, the other side says something, then both sides commence flinging poo until the point where it requires a pooper scooper and a magnifying glass to work out exactly who is correct. Take for example the YouTube feminist community, which has of late been doing its best impression of the Hindenburg, only without any of the humanity involved, trying to follow the warped pretzel logic of YouTube feminists as they make escalating demands, threats, accusations, and just general insanity towards each other. And of course their various enemies requires a degree in quantum maths and a high tolerance for bullshit, neither of things of which I have. The point is, at the end of the day, for someone who's trying to apply a little bit of journalistic rigor, it's just not worth it when dealing with drama topics. At best, YouTube drama is just a blood sport, a little light entertainment to pass the interval between cradle and grave. It always feels good to laugh at people that are dumber and more dishonest than you. That is true, but what I'm going to try and do despite all of that is try and salvage the glimmer of a lesson that we can learn from a particular drama that has happened recently. Because I hope to illustrate, at the very least, something about the YouTube celebrity system and the way in which content on this website gets pushed to the top. So the issue that I'm here to apply my lens to is the topic of plagiarism on YouTube, more particularly massive plagiarism on one of the most subscribed atheist channels in existence, Jaclyn Glenn. Now, I'd first like to dispel a misapprehension that a lot of people seem to have about the Jaclyn Glenn plagiarism incident, namely that this is just one incident. In fact, incidents of plagiarism on Jaclyn's channel span over the course of several years, the earliest one being detected in 2014. And so what I've done is collected all of these in this video to show everybody just how endemic to Jaclyn's work the issue of plagiarism truly is. So I figure the best way to do this is to just rip the band-aid off and go through the proven and in some cases slightly less proven allegations of plagiarism against Miss Jaclyn Glenn, and I will do these in no particular order. So, firstly, we'll start with the example that set off this particular powder keg, Jaclyn's, shall we say, borrowing of certain elements from a video by Scott Clifton, aka Theoretical Bullshit, here on YouTube, and the insertion of said elements into her video on the same subject, which was of course County Clerk Kim Davis, who refused to issue marriage licenses to gay couples on the grounds of her religious freedom. So I'll show you guys a snippet from a video by a user called Purdue Non-Theist who unearthed this to make the case.
Okay, 60 seconds of background, in case you've been living under a rock.
So a little background information in case you've been living under a rock.
Let me try and paint a picture for you. Okay, so Kim Davis goes to the DMV, but the office manager won't authorize the renewal of her driver's license because he's a Muslim and can't in good conscience approve of a woman driving.
What if she decided to get a driver's license and she went to the DMV and the person working there happened to be a Muslim?
Kim Davis knows a thing or two about the sanctity of marriage because she's on her fourth one. Not to mention the fact that she made babies with the man who would become husband number 3 while she was still married to husband number 1, but that's not the point, it's not the point.
Kim Davis has been married 4 times. She got pregnant with a baby from husband number 3 while somehow she was still married to husband number 1. I'll let you guys figure that out.
As you can see, there really is no argument that this was a mistake. This wasn't something that she did on accident. She basically stated everything that Theoretical Bullshit did word for word, and that clip was just a small portion of the original video from Purdue Non-Theist, which shows over 4 minutes of just similarities between the two. Jaclyn herself has also actually admitted to this and since removed the video on the wishes of Scott Clifton. So there we are, case closed, right? Clear-cut plagiarism. She stole the video. fine, right? If this was the only incident, perhaps we could say she made a mistake, she got caught, and we can leave it at that. But that's not where this stopped. We haven't even begun to get to the good shit just yet. So this is another example of plagiarism on Jaclyn's part that came to public attention once the story about her plagiarizing Scott Clifton broke. Once again, here are the two videos back to back so that you can judge for yourself.
Where do you get your limits from?
I get my limits from a rational consideration of the consequences of my actions.
Ridiculous to me. My morality is based off of a rational consideration of the consequences of my action.
Let's say somebody goes around and rapes and murders somebody, and then after they're done, they get saved. What's the punishment for them?
Oh, the punishment is hell.
No, they got saved.
They got saved.
Are you saying that a rapist can't be saved?
And to the people out there who say that I'm only an atheist so I can go out and be a terrible person with no consequences, your thinking is a little backwards. I mean, if a Christian goes out and murders somebody and repents after, they're saved. No consequence.
Christianity is not a moral system, it is an immoral system, because it specifically says that there aren't necessarily consequences that you're going to have to pay because of a loophole. And what is the loophole? It has nothing to do with how good you are or how morally you act or anything else. It has to do with whether or not you're willing to be a sycophant to an idea.
I mean, if a Christian goes out and murders somebody and repents after, they're saved. No consequence. It's not because of how morally they acted or how good of a person they were, it's because they kissed God's ass.
So the idea that secular morality offers no guarantee that people will ever pay for their crimes and their atrocities is not an argument against secular morality, because that is a tenet of Christianity. It is the foundation.
So the whole idea that secular morality is just a way out of being held responsible for your actions is completely ridiculous, because that's a tenet of Christianity.
And there we are, clear-cut plagiarism. There's really nothing more to say. She must have watched Matt Dillahunty's video and taken the notes verbatim, because a lot of the phrasing there is just way too close to be an accident. So there we are, 2 for 2. Surely Jaclyn didn't plagiarize anyone else. So yes, there's another example of a plagiarizing work from yet another person. In this case, it's from a video on Hobby Lobby, where she plagiarizes journalist and professor Scott Lemieux. This example comes via the way of a video created by a user called Sufferthorn, so once again, I'll plagiarize a section of his video here and show you how she stole someone else's work.
Listen, if corporations choose to take advantage of the tax benefits that they get for compensating employees with health coverage rather than wages, then they have to meet a certain minimum standard. So whenever you hear these religious freedom arguments from corporations, they're pretty much saying they want to have their cake and eat it too. They want it both ways. They want all the tax benefits without providing full benefits to their employee.
And there we are, pretty blatant. Next example. So this one is interesting in just how brazen it is. Jaclyn Glenn, in a video comparing different religious figures to Jesus, a video called Jesus Was a Lie, rips off her entire section comparing Krishna to Jesus directly from a website called in5d.com. This was uncovered by a user called Inward Burn, who's a Christian YouTuber here on YouTube, and once again here's a clip of his video illustrating the copying.
But anyways, the next god I want to talk to you about is Krishna. Here are a few things that they had in common. Both the Son of God, both sent from heaven to earth in the form of a man, both called the Savior, the second person of the Trinity. His adoptive father was a human and a carpenter. Both were visited at birth by wise men and shepherds, guided by a star. Both were without sin. They were both God-men, both being human and divine. Both performed many miracles, including healing disease, one of them being making a leper whole. Both cast out indwelling demons and raised the dead. Both selected disciples to spread his teachings. Both were meek and merciful. Both were criticized for associating with sinners. Both celebrated a Last Supper. Both forgave his enemies. Both descended into hell and were resurrected. Many people witnessed their ascensions into heaven.
And there we are, she ripped off the website wholesale. I can't really say much more about that. Now let's get on to something hopefully more interesting. here we are. So Jaclyn Glenn, like most other internet celebrities, has a Facebook page where she posts content, some of which I'll get to in the end of this video. Anyway, Jaclyn Glenn, unlike other internet celebrities, has also broke new ground in social media on a couple of occasions by taking her own fans' comments from her Facebook page and seamlessly integrating them into her videos on the same subjects without crediting or sourcing them in the slightest. Ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is a true pioneer. Both of these examples come from videos by Agent of Doubt here on YouTube, so I'll just once again seamlessly integrate them into my video to illustrate what I'm talking about.
And action.
You want to know why? Obamacare is law. It was passed by both the Senate and the House. It was signed by the President, upheld by the Supreme Court, and reaffirmed by the 2012 presidential election. I mean, if the Tea Party wants to advance their agenda, then maybe they should actually win national elections. Now, the House of Representatives are elected from districts, many of which are gerrymandered, and certainly a House representative does not speak for the majority of American voters. They only speak for voters in their districts. And it appears that a small fraction of one political party is being allowed to use extortion and hostage-taking in an effort to put an end to democracy in America, if you want to even call it that. And a lot of Americans are supporting this effort. You know what, it's not so much the political differences or the disagreement on different issues, it's that the Republican Party just seems to evolve ever more into a depth of apathy, irresponsibility, ignorance, and carelessness, and a willful degradation to the quality of life for human beings in America. It's not so much about the politics, it's about the protection of human rights that the GOP just continues to battle at every single fucking turn.
Unfortunately.
Now, I hope that we can all agree that stealing content from your own fans is pretty low. But of course it doesn't end there. So, not only does she steal a fan's Facebook comment, she also plagiarizes the content that she herself posts. What I am referring to is an incident of her directly plagiarizing one of her own fans' YouTube and Twitter comments, defending her from accusations that her content was unoriginal. And she wrapped that up into a supposedly original post on her Facebook. That's a hell of a lot of irony. The full article comparing the quotes is down below, though it is from Skeptic, so just make sure that you have your pesky ad block enabled, otherwise Rebecca Watson's probably going to earn a few cents of undeserved money. And we've made it to the last example. This is for me a rather shitty thing that she's done, even if it isn't necessarily plagiarism, but it hasn't really been looked at by anyone, so I've kept this to last so that I can cover it here. Jaclyn did something which is pretty common on Facebook. She stole an image from elsewhere, in this case Twitter, and posted it to her page. That itself is no crime. People share and retweet, etc. memes all the time. The issue here is that Jaclyn actually went the extra mile and blurred out the Twitter handle of Joshua John Banco, aka Canadian Atheist, the guy who originally created the photo. And that is really the part that gets me. She went out of her way to deny the guy credit for a photo which he took of himself and his vehicle. Not only that, but to top it all off, this image, which isn't even hers, is one of her most popular posts of all time on Facebook. So in summary, there's practically no aspect of Jaclyn's online persona here in which she hasn't plagiarized something. She's stolen information from websites, large YouTube atheists, small YouTube atheists, her own fans on Facebook, and her own fans on YouTube and Twitter. She's plagiarized videos, she's plagiarized social media posts, she's plagiarized practically everything that is possible for someone to do on here. And so now we move to the most slippery and difficult question in any journalistic inquiry, which is of course, why? I wouldn't normally go into this in any depth and I'd just let my subscribers decide, but as we are near Christmas, I'm going to really take this opportunity to do something which I hardly ever do on this channel, which is to tell you quite bluntly my opinion on why Jaclyn Glenn plagiarized this much content. And also bear in mind that these findings are just the tip of the iceberg. There are probably many more examples of plagiarism hidden in her videos, which will be unearthed down the line, and in a year or so I expect to hear of even more examples coming out, because there's nothing to indicate that she's learnt her lesson thus far. So, In my opinion, the truth about why Jaclyn Glenn did all of this plagiarism is actually pretty obvious. Firstly, she, like many plagiarists before her, thought that she could get away with it, which, as a Hughes a straight dope said many years ago, thinking that you can get away with plagiarism on an internet full of search engines is possibly the most stupid thing. And B, she doesn't give two fucks about her content, and or she's not articulate enough to come up with any of these ideas on her own. As far as I can see, Jaclyn isn't here for intellectual debate of the arguments or any of that stuff. No, Jaclyn is here to present other people's thoughts, arguments and opinions and repeat the same old tired topics and concepts from YouTube atheist history in the most bland and palatable manner possible to appeal to her niche audience. In short, Jaclyn isn't really a person. She's a product made and shaped by market forces of YouTube and the thirsty young gentle sirs of the atheist community who are more than happy to give Jaclyn the attention she craves, because in my view, Jaclyn is just another YouTube celebrity trying to make it in Hollywood. After all, she's connected to some big names in the YouTube industry. She was even at one point, I believe, dating Law & Order SVU Gamergate Edition star Toby Tobuscus Turner, and of course she's been sidling up towards known woman abuser Onision recently, because YouTube isn't so much a job for her, it's her resume as well. YouTube is the way that she hopes to break into the Hollywood industry, and so all of this is just carefully crafted to make her look good, maximize revenue with the least amount of effort possible, and that's why she plagiarized so much stuff. That's all it is. I bet that Jaclyn would probably quit making videos about atheism a very, very long time ago if it wasn't for the money, the controversy, and the niche appeal that this particular line of YouTube videos has made her, and sort of gave her a way of standing out from other YouTube celebrities who talk about makeup or whatever. And I'm not kidding when I say that she's run out of ideas here. For example, she recently made a video about why agnostics are actually atheists, which is practically a plagiarism of herself from a video that she did in 2013. She's just, right now, repeating herself. So, now that I'm done being cynical, it's probably germane to talk about the atheist community's reaction to these allegations. Suffice to say, condemnation. Absolute condemnation of Jaclyn's actions right across the board. Her credibility took a huge dive in the court of public opinion, with even her old friends at the Drunken Peasants podcast turning their backs on her. Clearly, the atheist community, at the very least, is enforcing some level of intellectual standard here. The only real question is how she got away with this for so long, and why no one caught her before that. That, in and of itself, is quite a miracle. Another interesting thing, of course, is how Jaclyn Glenn has responded to these allegations, how she's responded to her public reputation and all of her stuff being basically discredited. Mainly not really in the many hollow apologies that she's offered, but mainly in the way that she's begun changing her content. After the plagiarism scandal, Jaclyn's videos have taken rather an interesting turn. Namely, the next video that she made was about an allegedly transphobic prank that some random YouTube channel made. This video also featured an appearance from two of Jaclyn's lesbian gal pals, Bria and Chrissy, who rarely make an appearance in those videos pre-scandal. So for some reason, those two are all of a sudden in her videos, and the overall social justice-y tone of the video about the transphobic prank has led some to speculate that Jaclyn is eyeing up a place on the podium at the Social Justice Olympics, which might possibly be true. I'm not going to say that that's a fact, but whatever the case, Jaclyn is clearly trying to alter her content to try and get away from these serious issues and move towards a different demographic. And only time will tell if her cover in the atheist community has been well and truly blown and she's moving on to where her next niche audience is going to lie. So in summary, Jaclyn Glenn is a serial plagiarist. Her content is not going to set the world on fire, nor is it going to start a flame in my heart. Now if you'll excuse me, I've got a sternly worded review to write. If any of you want to leave me a very nice, long, detailed, in-depth comment on Star Citizen and Derek Smart, which is going to be the subject of my next video, thus doing 99% 99% of the work for me, I would most appreciate it. I've been Dangerous Analysis. Thank you to all of my subscribers, and as always,
Good night, and good luck.